In a certain mining town, there was a competition to see who could eat the most in the shortest time. One man easily outdistanced all the other competitors. During the time allowed, he put away a beefsteak, a pound of sausages, a hefty meat pie, and about a yard of suet pudding. For this remarkable performance, he was roundly feted, and, of course, he was adjudged the winner. Just as he was about to leave the scene of his glory, he turned around and said, "I say, you fellows, don't let my wife know, or I won't get any dinner." "So you've been cured of your insomnia? It must be an immense relief." "You've said it. Why, I lie awake half the night thinking about how I used to suffer from it." "Doctor," a woman said loudly, bouncing into the room, "I want you to say frankly what's wrong with me." He surveyed her from head to foot. "Madam," he said at length, "I've just 3 things to tell you. First, your weight wants reducing by nearly 50 pounds. Second, your beauty would be improved if you used about 1/10 as much rouge and lipstick. And third, I am an artist. The doctor lives on the next floor." "Can you name an animal that has eyes and cannot see, legs and cannot walk, but can jump as high as the Empire State Building?" asked the life of the party. Everybody racked his brains during a period of deep silence, and racked in vain. Finally, they gave it up and demanded the solution. "The answer," he said, "is a wooden horse. It has eyes and cannot see, and legs and cannot walk." "Yes," the company agreed. "But how does it jump as high as the Empire State Building?" "The Empire State Building," the humorist explained, "can't jump." A mother was preparing pancakes for her sons, Kevin, who is 5, and Ryan, a 3-year-old. The boys began to argue over who would get the first pancake. Their mother saw the opportunity for a moral lesson. "If Jesus were sitting here, he would say, 'Let my brother have the first pancake. I can wait.'" Kevin turned to his younger brother and said, "Ryan, you be Jesus." At the urging of his doctor, Bill moved to Texas. After settling in, he met a neighbor who was also an older man. "Say, is this really a healthy place?" "Sure it is," the man replied. "When I first arrived here, I couldn't say one word. I had hardly any hair on my head. I didn't have the strength to walk across a room, and I had to be lifted out of bed." "That's wonderful," said Bill. "How long have you been here?" "I was born here." A little boy was attending his first wedding. After the service, his cousin asked him, "How many men can a woman marry?" 16, the boy responded. His cousin was amazed that he knew the answer so quickly. "How do you know that?" "Easy," the little boy said. "All you have to do is add it up. Like the preacher said, 4 better, 4 worse, 4 richer, 4 poorer." Henry Brown arrived late at the country club dance and discovered that in slipping on the icy pavement outside, he had torn one knee of his trousers. "Come into the ladies' dressing room, Henry," said his wife. "There's no one here, and I'll pin it up for you." Examination showed that the rip was too large to be pinned. A maid furnished needle and thread and was stationed at the door to keep out intruders, while Mr. Brown removed his trousers. His wife went busily to work. Before long, excited voices began drawing near to the door. "We must come in. Mrs. Jones is ill. Quick, let us in." "Here," said the resourceful Mrs. Brown to her terrified husband. "Get into this closet for a minute." She opened the door and pushed her husband through just in time. Immediately came loud thumps and the panicked voice of Mr. Brown from the other side, demanding that his wife open it at once. "But the women are here." "I don't care. I'm out in the ballroom." A collector of rare books ran into an acquaintance who told him he had just thrown away an old Bible that he found in a dusty old box. He happened to mention that Guten somebody or other had printed it. "Not Gutenberg?" gasped the collector. "Yes, that was it." "You idiot! You've thrown away one of the first books ever printed. A copy recently sold at an auction for $500,000. "No, I don't think this book would have been worth anything close to that much," replied the man. "Some guy named Martin Luther had scribbled all over the margins." According to legend, the legendary archery skills of William Tell were put to the test by the authorities. William Tell was commanded to shoot an apple off of his son's head, or both would be executed. Less well known is the fact that his son gave an interview shortly after. In this interview, he relayed his pride for the heroic deed of his father in the ordeal they were put through. He also said he was very glad the Austrian authorities did not know about his dad's prowess in bowling. This man's wife told him to copy a radio recipe. He did his best but got 2 stations at once. And this is what he wrote down. Hands on hips, place 1 cup of flour on your shoulder, raise knees and depress toes. Mix thoroughly in 1/2 cup of milk, repeat 6 times. Inhale quickly 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, lower the legs and mash 2 hard-boiled eggs in a sieve. Exhale breath naturally and sift in a bowl. Attention, lie flat on the floor and roll in the whites of 2 eggs backward and forward until it comes to a boil. In 10 minutes, remove from the fire and rub smartly with a rough towel. Breathe naturally, dress in warm flannels, and serve with tomato soup. Mrs. Green had recently acquired a dog and was proudly demonstrating his good points to a friend. "I know he's not what you would call a pedigree dog," she said, "but no tramp or beggar can come near the house without his letting us know about it." "What does he do?" asked her friend. "Bark the house down?" "No, he crawls under the sofa." A grizzled old man was eating in a truck stop when 3 members of a motorcycle gang walked in. The first walked up to the old man and pushed his cigarette into the old man's pie, and then he took a seat at the counter. The second walked up to the old man and spat into the old man's milk, and then he too took a seat at the counter. The third walked up to the old man and turned over the old man's plate, and then he too took a seat at the counter. Without a word of protest, the old man quietly left the diner. Shortly thereafter, one of the bikers said to the waitress, "Not much of a man, was he?" The waitress replied, "Not much of a truck driver either. He just backed this truck over 3 motorcycles." A movie producer was planning his next blockbuster, an action docudrama about composers. So he set up a meeting with Jean-Claude Van Damme, Sylvester Stallone, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and offered them the chance to select which famous musician they'd portray. "Chopin has always been my favorite," said Van Damme. "That's the part for me." "I've always admired Mozart," Stallone said. "I'd love to play him." The producer turned to Schwarzenegger. "And you, Arnold, who do you want to be?" There was a long silence, then he replied, "I'll be Bach." A man is driving along a highway when a rabbit jumps right in front of the car. He pulls over and gets out to see what has become of the rabbit. Much to his dismay, the rabbit is dead. The driver feels so awful that he begins to cry. A beautiful blonde woman driving down the highway sees a man crying on the side of a road and pulls over. "What's wrong?" "I feel terrible. I accidentally hit this rabbit and killed it." "Don't worry." She runs to her car and pulls out a spray can. She walks over to the limp, dead rabbit, bends over and sprays the content onto the rabbit. The rabbit jumps up, waves its paw at the 2 of them and hops off down the road. 10 feet away, the rabbit stops, turns around and waves again. And repeats this again and again and again until he hops out of sight. "What is in that can? What did you spray on that rabbit?" "Well, here it says plainly, hairspray restores life to dead hairs, adds permanent wave."